Meeting of the Sewer Commission to order for February 23rd, 2016. And dig right into it. There is no public to comment, unfortunately. Everybody else is a little late, too. In terms of announcements, a few things. One is I'd like to remind everyone that Town Caucus is coming up on March 14th at 7 p.m. Turkey Hill Middle School, where we will have, this is a 5-member commission, we will actually have 4 positions that will be addressed at Town Caucus. 2 of them are the normal cycle that's coming up, and of 2 of our members, which is myself and Mr. Nault. Unfortunately, I would announce that Mike has, for personal reasons, made a decision that he will not be seeking re-election. So there's one there, and then there are 2 other openings. One which was created by when Troy Daniels decided to leave the team. His position, that opening would be for 1 year, so that's kind of a nice thing to try out. It's not a long-term commitment, but long enough to, get your feet wet and make some difference and maybe learn you like it. So there'll be one year opening that we'll be looking for an applicant for, and then there's one more 2-year opening from John Reynolds, who was appointed to complete a year by the selectmen because of an opening is coming up, has to be officially elected, and has I'm very happy to say has decided that he will throw his name in the ring, and hopefully we'll get his name on the ballot through the caucus. So again, the caucus is on March 14th. It's a pretty painful way to get involved. Come to the meeting and you get your name on the ballot. If you decide later, you can still get a form to fill out with very few signatures and that you could get on the ballot. But I encourage and hope there will be some interested people that we'll see there on the 14th. And please reach out to us, any of the members here. If you know any of us, please reach out to any of us or Barb if you want to get some more information to make a decision, an informed decision. So again, I encourage you. It's a good team. It's very, very important for the town, and we do some good work. Okay. Any public comment from the commission? Oh, okay.
Announce that
And
we're televised. Announce that we're televised.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Barb. I skipped right over that. I hate to read. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. Okay. All right. And we had an appointment who is not here yet, so we will proceed to the next agenda item, which is great because I hear the snow's coming. So
I do not think he is coming.
no.
835 Leominster Road.
Okay. So what I would do, this was 835 Leominster Road. It was just an informal request for information regarding a direct connect possibility to Leominster. And we did have some discussion at the last meeting. The commission did have a discussion. Was not viewing it favorably, but there was no vote taken. There was no official request on the table. For the commission's information, I did fulfill my job of contacting the engineer the day after our meeting, informing him of our sense at the moment, but that we were certainly open for further discussion and to have our minds changed. And I think we all would remain that way if he chose to reschedule. Okay. Highfield Village. This the current business. I just wanted to give you an update on Highfield Village. This is something that we approved quite some time ago. It's been in process for 10 years or more, but is becoming very active before the planning board right now. And I did attend the planning board meeting last night, where they made sort of their first full-blown restart of the whole hearing process, and it was a good session, but it was It was pretty cut short a little bit by the realization that that whole development is based upon a cluster development, where in a cluster development you get to have more dense housing, and you have to have 50% of the area open space, which they did in their proposal, had 50% open space. But of that 50%, only 10% is allowed to be wetlands. And it turned out last night the planning board came to the realization that the 50% of the open space is wetlands. So everybody is resetting and trying to determine what happens next. Is that something that can even be discussed or not? It's in the bylaw. Relative to this commission, there was one question raised. The current set of drawings looks to be the same regarding sewer as we had approved some time ago, all gravity feed, and then down Maple Parkway, I think, is it Maple Parkway Street, and then down White, which would be great for people along those streets. So the development is certainly helpful for them. But there was one addition to the print that was concerning. If you recall, we had we really had nothing to say about it, but they asked us if they could put a pipe that was beyond the sewer service area to a future development area, that they could bring sewer back up and connect through this development. We said we had no say over what pipes they put in the ground, but at that time we made it clear that that we had no reason to believe that we would add that to the sewer service area, that the comprehensive wastewater plan was quite clear, and that there was a lot of property and it should be able to support septic.
Was this the reference they made to future development with E1 systems?
Well, this is, that was a strange thing. They are now showing a pump at the bottom end of that pipe,
Right,
down near
right.
Northfield, to pump back up. They're calling it an E1 system, but it's unless it's an E1 system that we haven't dealt with yet, they need a big pump, because they're
Right.
definitely talking development, multiple homes, and it's not a single house with E1 system. I did express, I did on a public comment, I did express concern, and requested that that they be asked to remove the pump, just so that there is no future, implication that the planning board said, yeah, you can do it, and the town said you could do it. So, and the planning board understood, appreciated that, and they did request that pump be removed. Again, the pipe in the ground is their business. So that's where that stands. But I'm afraid the restart is starting a little bit on a rocky road on that. Okay. 274 Prospect Street. This is we had the peer review engineer visit us last meeting to go over the sewer implications of the 274 Prospect Street development. There was nothing major. There were some comments that he had made, and Jack Rodequins of the DPW had joined us, and there were some recommendations. I think we have new prints that were sent out.
But it looks like they incorporated the request that Jack made.
Good, okay. That's great to hear. So we should have no issues on that, unless there are any other follow-up that the commission would be interested in. Okay, then we'll move on to that. Next, my favorite, FY17 budget. We've spent several meetings discussing this and fine-tuning this. And from a timing point of view, March 17th is when we're due before the Finance Committee to present the budget to the Finance Committee and the town officials. What I'm hoping to do tonight, and we've sent this out in the packages, I'm hoping to have any additional review, incorporate any comments, changes that we want to make, and hopefully get to a vote of approving the operating budget. Also reviewing the debt service part of the budget. Now we're a full and real enterprise fund, so we have two sides of the business. One is paying off the debt and The other is running the operation, at least overseeing the running of the operation. So maybe we could do the, since we haven't seen it yet, let's start with the betterment side of it. So then when we get to the budget, hopefully we'll be done, because that number is used in the budget estimate. So I think everybody got that, but I think you have some.
I have the graph that you asked for.
Did everyone get the entire spreadsheet?
I thought it said Bob was going to have a copy.
She's got the,
Anytime I try and print that, it's...
Big.
all right.
Yeah.
Let me just pull up, so what Barb has is the graph that would be,
Graph side of it.
that would be presented to FinCom, and let me pull up the numbers. So,
Budget.
read numbers off here, but if anybody wants a little bit more detail, give me 1 second, and then I'll walk you through that.
It went out 20
Copy of
years. It
betterment.
wasn't a good,
Fund spreadsheet.
didn't print well.
No,
Oh, the whole chart?
Doesn't, no.
Yes, yeah, no, that's why,
It wasn't.
just, copy the graph, because the chart is,
I don't have it now.
it's tough enough when you can explode it on your computer. Budget. Nation,
Yeah, do you have it?
yeah. Okay, good. So, I meant to give the camera people a copy of this thing.
Want me to run it down?
Can they go on a hard copy?
No, I
I don't know if they
can.
can show a hard copy. It's okay.
Okay.
I'll just walk the commission through it here. What we're looking at is the projected debt service payments, and this includes the first betterments that were done for the sewer system, phase 1 and 2, I guess we call it, which have been in place since starting somewhere around 2004. Those debts started to accumulate, and I think the last ones kind of started to accumulate about 2007, when the project was done and all of the loans were done and the final number was locked in. So the debt service started then and then ran out to 20 years. So it includes all of those debts. It also includes the debt basically to date on the new betterments, the 2 new betterments. So in this picture, there's $1.5 million, $1.5 million plus or minus of debt service for the 2 new betterments that we've been working on. So that is what you see in the green line, is essentially the paying back of those debts. So you can see that starts out right now is about, those debts start out right now about $800,000. Have a little bump because of the new debt we have, a little over $800,000. And then between 2022 and 2025, the original debt starts to fall off, so you see the pretty steep drop in the debt service down to a couple $100,000 in that time frame. And then it flattens out essentially through 2037, which is basically the end of the debt that we're just incurring for these betterments, the 20 years of that debt. Then it flattens out down about $92,000 or $98,000, which is actually the debt of the Meadowwoods, because that debt was over 30 years, I think.
30 years.
Yeah, so it was a longer-term debt. So, so that's sort of the debt curve dropping down, and then the kind of purplish, dark blue line is the betterment income. For instance, this year, we're projecting a debt service of a little over $800,000, and a betterment income of about $650 or something, maybe like that. So the income is short. The primary reason for that is that a number of the original betterment payments, were a number of the people decided to pay right away. It was issued in two phases of, 5,000, and then a few years later, another 5,000. A number of people paid off that 5,000 right away, and perhaps even the second 5. So all that cash came in, so it's not surprising that people aren't paying the income. So that's not unusual or too scary, as long as the net of our bank account, essentially what we call retained earnings, stays positive, and that's the light blue line. So you'll see right now we have in retained earnings as of a year and a half ago, and last time it was certified, of about $1.2 million. So we're effectively using that to fund this difference between the income and the outgo. The other thing to understand about the betterment income on this graph is, although, and it's because of the timing, although we have the debt service in the plan, because the loans are outstanding, we paid our contractors and we borrowed the money, we haven't assessed the betterment, so there's no income. So there is no income and there's the outgo. So that gap is bigger than it will be a year from now between the revenue and the expenses. But you'll see that our $1 million plus, gets eaten up between now and 2024 or so, and we drop to a little under $200,000 in our bank account, essentially. So the good news is that we get through it. It's about when the major debt drops off, and we actually, for a period, again, because of timing on the first ones, we actually have a period where we have more income than outgo, because the first betterments are paid off, but the people haven't finished paying us. So we start to build up our retained earnings again, and that's a good picture and a good story. And in this model, we've taken last year we had a $70,000 roughly. We were in the black last year's operating budget. Thank you, team. So that is accounted for in here, and we're projecting about a $77,000 in the black again this year. We'll finalize that when we get to the budget approval. So those two are taken into account in here. So that's helping the gap a little bit. But going forward, the assumption is we just break even. So if there's no more goodness from operations assumed. If we are good, then great. But there's none assumed. And there's also the other thing that protects us a bit here is there's no assumption of additional privilege fees. The privilege fees would directly add to this reserve, to the retained earnings. They don't go into our operating budget, they go right into these accounts. So we certainly will have privilege fees also coming in. So I think it's a pretty safe picture, and it's a business I'm happy to be part of.
It definitely looks good. It's good projection.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions, or even in terms of, certainly in terms of any of the detailed numbers or anything, I can pull them up, or even presentation for thinking of Finance Committee.
I guess the only question I have is, it looks like, well, you did use the 2%. I mean, at the last meeting, we talked about
Great
2
question.
versus 5, I think, so.
Thank you, John.
Why the 2?
I met with Karen on this, and I said, probably, the probably is going to be 2 or 5. It's probably going to be 4 or 5%. And her feeling was, and her preference was, and she's the financial person, so I want to make sure we're all in this together. Her preference was to stay at 2, so that there was no chance of this thing looking worse than would happen going forward. So we're showing, and thank you, John. I'll make a note that to highlight that. So we've got several layers of conservatism and protection in this model. Now, the thing that's not in the model, From an income point of view, what I did for the new betterments is exactly what you said, just for people at home, is we took just a projection, and it's a flat line projection. It's not what the town doesn't net word, we ended up being looking like a mortgage, right? I use a mortgage calculator, so it's a flat line projection of the revenue stream based on a 2% interest. So I'll have to make sure we note that.
And the betterments for the new projects will be coming in the first quarter of next year?
They're gonna, I'm gonna drive pretty hard to try and stay on this schedule, because we need to get the betterments tied down and notify the people of the betterment by August. I think it's mid-August, it might be third week, but I'm gonna try to drive our schedule to by mid-August. And I think that means notifying the people, so that's when the letters go out. If we hit that window, then the first time people will see it on their tax bill is December. And when that's due is, I don't know, but they'll see it, they should see it in December. And that, if we do that, then our payments and our revenue will stay in the same fiscal year. If we miss that window, we'll have a disconnect and we'll have the payments and no revenue. So it's important to stay on that, which means we need to complete the project first, which hopefully we'll do early spring as soon as they get out there and pave the roads. If we have to do additional borrowing, and we probably will, hopefully not as much as the original projection, but maybe a couple $100,000 more, that will have to go into this equation. But whatever we borrow should offset itself, so it shouldn't negatively affect this. If anything, it would positively affect it. So what we need to do, though, is to get it finished, get the number of units that will be assessed, and Barb has already gone to the firm who did that for us before. Weston Sampson did that on phase 1, which was 10 times more complicated than this. But there are little nuances to it, and you want to get it right, because if you make a bad assumption, you spread it over so many units, and then somebody comes back and gets an abatement, you can't go reassess. So you got to make sure it's pretty darn solid. So we need to get them to go do that, which we can start doing. Barb's already started those gears in motion to get that moving, because nothing is going to change between now and finishing the project. And then we have to do the calculations, decide, have some good discussion on, is it 1 betterment, 2 betterments, and do we want to allow for any future privilege fees? Is there any potential of additional people wanting access that, should pay their fair share? So is there any money we want to set aside? We set aside $1 million on the first project. Again, much bigger and a lot more unknowns. This one's a lot more contained. We should be able to be pretty accurate here. So we need to get all that done, get it cranked through, do the calculation, and send out the bills by August. So it's not a small amount if you count on 1.5 hands how many meetings we have between now and then. So. Okay, good. If there's nothing else on that, we'll go to the budget, which you do all have. And Barb, can you, I think there have been very few changes since the commission saw this last time.
Oh, I think,
Drawing a quick blank here on what they are.
the major thing was that Carl had noticed that I&I appeared in 2 places under purchase of service. And so all we did was, it was under engineering, because engineers are the ones that have been working on our I&I. But we had our own I&I category, but up above. So this is like the 2A, B, C lines, which we've just moved. We've moved
I'm going to
the
see.
5th lines up to under I&Is.
This can probably help,
And I don't think we
because I'm not knowing where.
So,
amounts.
trying to see what line is that on for
If I make
Mike?
it any smaller, I can't see it.
That's fine, that's good.
Oh, on,
Yeah, I need
on
my
Excel.
glasses to read that, so.
5D
5D and E
and E?
were moved up to 2B and 2C. It just groups all I expenses together.
Is there another sheet?
So none of the numbers change, so we still have, what's the magic number, Barb, that we're planning on spending on I&I, not counting where the money comes from?
30,000.
30,000, okay,
But
great.
13.2 of that will be funded basically through the sewer bank that is collected.
The I&I fees, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So now, we didn't change this, so this
Okay.
retelling you things, stuff we knew that,
It's just rearranged.
but
Okay.
we are spending 30,000, this, planning to spend
That's
30,000.
another page, it's gotta be another page.
There's gotta be,
We had only spent 25, budgeted 25 this year, so we're
Oh, here we go.
increasing the I&I
He highlighted it.
cost a
There it
little bit.
is.
And I&I, again, for anyone who's listening, is inflow and infiltration. And this is water that comes into the system that essentially is not intended to be there. It's either maybe a cracked pipe, it may be, a sump pump. It's water that's not sewerage. And we need to minimize that because every gallon costs us the same to process in Fitchburg or Leominster, no matter what it consists of. So this is really lost money, and people are paying for stuff for something that they really don't want or need. So let's go down the bottom here.
Sue, did you see it? Do you have it?
I have it.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Ooh, I must be looking at the wrong one. I think this is the one in the package.
I'd rather have a
Um,
paper
If you look,
copy,
is it
so I can
down
go
on
back
line
and forth.
140,
It's hard to see.
159, the projected revenue?
You can scroll if you want. I have a really hard.
161, 110, 651?
Oh, yeah, I've opened the wrong, gee, this is the wrong file? Hang on, I've opened the wrong file. Ah, thank you. That was a check. I failed. Prior one.
I have it named proposed 517.
Yes, all in
okay.
capital letters, thank you.
Proposed.
Okay, now we're on the same page. It's much smaller. Okay, so there's the 110. Yeah, okay, great. So if we go down to the bottom line, I don't know if we had made, I don't think we had made this change on the projected revenues. Down on line, oh, in this PDF, it doesn't show the line numbers.
No.
No.
In the
Excel's
gray
line
area.
was-
Very close to the bottom. It
Yeah.
says projected revenue from essentially from the new betterments of 110,651.
Yep.
That was, I think, 50,000 plug in the earlier versions.
Right.
So what that 110 is exactly that 20-year mortgage payment on the debt service that's now in this other chart, the 1.5 roughly $1 million. So if you take that $1.5 million over 20 years at 2% interest, it's $110,000 a
Okay.
year.
Okay.
So it assumes that that no one pays the betterment up front.
Right.
If they do, that number would actually go up, but in the out years, it would clearly go down.
Right.
So it's, it,
I agree.
probably
I don't
won't-
think
it
we're
probably
gonna
won't
see a
go
lot, I don't think we're gonna see a lot of that.
yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that the $20,000-ish
Right.
that somebody's gonna say, yeah, I'd rather give you it than
Right.
pay it over 20 years. But what will happen, that we couldn't possibly predict is, houses will change hands. And the probability when they change hands is that the banks will force the people to pay them off. And so then we'll start to see some bumps coming in, but there's no way to predict that. And again, and that really is why the commission, the town is somewhat allowed to or expected to charge a slightly higher rate than we pay, because these things happen. We won't get the interest from those people that pay off up front, but we will still have the loan over 20 years.
Right.
There are administrative costs and things, so. So anyway, that 110, so that is that first year's contribution, because it doesn't show up in Karen's numbers, which is why we had to plug it in. So with all that in our operating budget, we're showing, well, let's go to the good news first. The operating budget, what's the number, Barb?
78,144, that we're ahead.
Is in the red, is in the black, so to the good, $78,000 from the operating budget. And with using that to help offset this gap, we have 77, is that?
Right.
Yeah. So we would expect to, as an enterprise fund for the fiscal year 17, we would expect to still be in the red by $77,197.72, which we can stand easily, as you see from the chart.
Right, which we see, right.
We'll
We see it
get
coming
through.
Right, yeah.
Anything else noteworthy here, Barb?
And the good news is not the full amount.
Yes. Yes. And I would say, and I really commend the team here, and Barb particularly, that every year we're getting a little bit more detail, a little bit leaner on the budget. So I think we're really starting to pare it down. We're really looking at the revenues and the what it costs us to send it out, and what the revenues are a lot closer, and the expenses a lot closer. So I do expect that number, because we shouldn't, I mean, theoretically, we should not, our goal should not be to operate in the black. I mean, this is an enterprise fund, and we should be, giving the people the best deal we can for the least money. The good part about staying in the black a little bit is, at some point, one of our local towns that we send this to is going to increase their rates. So if we can stay as lean as we are, then hopefully we can keep absorbing rate increases through our operating, through improvements in our operating costs, so that people won't see rate increases. They haven't seen them in, how many years, Mike? Let's see. 2
It's 2 years.
2 years
now.
2 years, and we're not projecting one for next year, so.
And I think it's good to always have a little bit of a buffer built in, so we're still heading in the right direction, and like you said, we're not asking for rate increases at the moment, so it's a good thing.
Yes, yes, it's all good. It's a good job by everybody. Including, and I will, our primary system operator, Small Water, is a big part of that. Because they're keeping the stations in very good shape. They're not, their costs are if anything, going down, hopefully with our skater, but we'll talk about that later. So their costs are not going up. So so it's all good. It's a team. Okay, if there aren't any other questions or suggestions on the budget, I would take a motion to approve the FY17 budget.
I move that we approve the FY17 sewer budget.
Thank you. Have a second?
I will second that.
All right, Mike. Any further discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now, I go back to my notes. Town meeting, okay, so town meeting is coming upon us. I think it's May, like 7th or something, it's the first week in May, I think. The most relevant timely item on the, is that the warrants for the town meeting close on the 24th, so anything that wants to be presented at town meeting has to be to the selectmen by March 24th. So we have a little time. And we have some things that I'd like to have some discussion with tonight. There are some obvious things where we'll be asking for a transfer from the enterprise fund because of that being in the red, the 77,000, so we'll need a transfer, so that'll be on the warrant. We will be again transferring whatever we have collected this year in capacity fees for new connections. We'll be transferring those into the capacity fund that was set up at last year's town meeting. So those are pretty straightforward. The other reasonably straightforward one is we will be presenting and asking the town to approve a revised comprehensive wastewater plan, management plan. We'll put together a presentation for that we'll review with the commission. But basically, the objectives there are, there's no changes to the sewer service area. So that's good, and maybe a first, I don't know. We primarily are doing this to update some of the redirection of the flows in the comprehensive wastewater plan where or would go to Fitchburg, and we're redirecting some of them to Leominster. And that's basically to reduce our costs. The Fitchburg rates are much higher than Leominster rates. We've already made those assumptions in our agreement with Fitchburg, so we now need to solidify them and make sure that they're firmly in place so that nobody forgets, and the commissions of the future will have the right, Bible to work from. Also at that time, we will take this opportunity to update the cost models so that the next sewer extension will have something that isn't 5 years out of date for a cost model to use for people to get a first indication of how much it might cost them. So we'll take what we've just learned with these betterments, and they'll update the cost models for future expansions. And that hopefully will be very, very useful and keep us out of trouble. Not to ask, but try it. So that's the CWMP. And again, that's reasonably straightforward. No news there. The one thing I'd like to discuss tonight, and if we have time to do it, would be a bylaw change, which is more of an addition to the bylaws than a change. And the item that I'd like to address there is really the change process for regulations. Right now, we don't have any documented change process to change our regulations. Bylaws can only be changed at town meeting. Regulations can be changed by the board who controls the regulations. That's a lot of power, and I think needs to be taken very, very seriously. And I know we do that, but we don't really have a formal process that we can go to and say, okay, we're going to, change the grease regulations. What's the process? Other commissions and boards do have a process. I know of one that is hoping to go to town meeting this year to implement the same thing in their bylaw, to put a change process in. I think it's very important to the people in town. It assures that there is public, is informed and well aware of the process, without having to look at every agenda item, that's coming up. And it generally means having formal hearings. It's not much more complicated than that, but having formal hearings, you know, how do you notify people, whether it be the paper, how often, how many hearings, you know, and how the hearings are orchestrated. And again, it's primarily to make sure that the public is aware, because regulation changes are pretty important, not at the level of town meeting importance perhaps, but the public should have knowledge and input to them is my feeling. So I'd open that up to the commission and see how you feel about trying to see if we can work something out in the next 4 weeks to get something on the warrant.
I agree we need to have some type of formal process, because I know even some of the minor changes we made, we're sort of looking around, what's the best way to do this? So I think, I also don't like to reinvent the wheel, so whatever board or commission has developed a formal process, maybe we could look at theirs, so that use that as a starting point, maybe.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's a very good point. I think that, to me, to do something like that is what probably makes it possible to do in this time frame, because we're not reinventing the wheel. And I think for the town's point of view and for the people's point of view, the more common the process, it'd be nice if there was a town process for regulation changes, you know, that we could just adopt. So everybody's used to it, right? You know, go from one board to another and you have a different set of rules. But and we can work towards that, quite frankly, because we can. I do know there's another commission that I know well that has this plan to do this, and there are commissions, and there are you know, the planning board has not so much for regulations, but they have a pretty clear process for hearings.
So do you anticipate having a couple workshops to do this?
I think I think that's probably the best, and I'm not sure if I see any you know, real light agendas coming up, but I think you know, a couple, even half-hour workshops maybe before a meeting, and we could probably get this. But as you say, can do some homework, getting examples and get what's done elsewhere, so that we're you know, we're just sort of saying, yeah, I'll live with that, or let's modify it this way or that, but trying not to complicate it. So if the commissions agree with trying to do that, there's no guarantee we can make it in time, but that would be great. Okay, so we'll set that up.
Okay.
Matter of fact, maybe we could. There is another workshop area that we have to have, and maybe we can combine them. But we can discuss that when we get there. So on that, we'll set something up. I'll try to gather some documentation for us to start with. Okay. Grease trap interceptor program status. The first one is our last meeting. We discussed the observations at Crossroads Plaza intercept, and decided that we wanted to send a letter to them, requesting that they do some research in terms of the construction of their external grease trap, which seemed to be have some problems, some technical problems. And Barb did send a letter on the 19th, last Friday, which was in your package.
Yeah.
And I think you talked to someone today, Barb? Maybe you could just...
He just checked with him to make sure he had received it, and he had some questions, and may either come in or call and try to find out what to do, but advised him that we wanted to be there if they did have the inspection. So he seemed as if he was going to act on it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
He was not present when it was put in, so he really had no knowledge that it was built as designed.
Yeah,
It was a surprise to him, so.
And you had gotten, thank you, there was an as-built, supposedly.
Right.
Did it?
Didn't have the detail.
Yeah, okay,
It's
yeah.
just a sketch of where it is, basically.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was no
I
new.
would have been pleasantly, but very surprised if it had any detail of how the construction was, so.
Right.
Okay, but we had to run it to ground, so there is no as-built that we're aware of that indicates what was really built.
Right.
Because clearly what's on the print was not built. It had three, all I know is it had three manhole covers, and what we saw, we only had one, so.
Hopefully that doesn't mean it's a very small tank.
Maybe. I don't know. I didn't measure the distance. So anyway, I don't know if you had seen my, you probably didn't because I think you had already left to come here. But I will be at the DPW tomorrow, and you had mentioned he might come in tomorrow.
It wasn't he was gonna, I think he was gonna send possibly Jamie,
Oh,
so, but he didn't give a time.
okay.
I can call in the morning.
Yeah, all right, just.
Jamie probably wouldn't be in by,
Would
you
be
say?
convenient.
10.
So who might be at the DPW tomorrow, or what?
The actual owner of the
Right,
Okay.
David.
complex.
Owner of Crosswoods.
Just to clarify
Crossroads.
what we're looking for, or
Say what?
To clarify.
his purpose? So is it to clarify what we're looking for from them, or?
Right, he did, well, after I talked to him for a while, I actually referred him to Carl, because Carl was there and can explain. And I told him we had the drawings, so he may come in to look, he may call for more information. We're trying to put him in touch with, he doesn't know who he needs to reach out to next to get it clarified. And I wasn't sure if this is a Wind River, in order to repair what has been installed. I'm not sure who is that? Is that plumbing? Is it a interceptor?
We should pull
company,
Jack
is
in
it?
and see. I mean, it seems to me that, it's probably a two-step process, and you could do them at the same time, but it might be more costly, is they got to get the thing pumped, or else they can't go inspect it. So they got to get somebody to pump it. Whether that company can, go inside and take some pictures, and, because we're looking for major features, is there a baffle, is there a T, we're looking for the features on the print. The features on the print have an invert on this end, an invert on that end, and they have a baffle in the middle. We want to confirm if those are there or not.
Right, and the size, it would be nice to confirm the size of the
And we
tank,
get
too.
the
I suppose
dimension.
they can tell that by when they pump it out. too,
Right,
so.
yeah, right, that's a good point. So, but to me, that's the first step. The repair of it probably has to have somebody else come in, but if you know what it is, I would hope somebody could estimate a repair. And hopefully, it'd be delightful if the only problem is the problem we saw, which is there's a pipe missing on the input, and they could just reinstall that pipe. That would be lovely. Maybe the pipe's missing on the output too. And if the baffle's missing, then that's gonna be a different discussion. So, but the good news is he's responsive. He wants to do the right thing. And, we're gonna help him where we can and try to minimize the impact on him. But he right now seems to be trickling grease into our system, and that's not acceptable. Which is why we only gave him 5 days to respond. Smallwater had given us the report on the site visits, and if there's any discussion or comment on the report.
I guess my only comment would be, I think there's several items that need to be followed up on. 3 bay sinks that don't have grease traps. Dishwashers, are they going? I think we debated whether you have to have an internal grease trap, but as long as, I think as long as it's an interceptor, but we can't tell
Right.
where those are going. Are they going directly to the sewer
Right.
or to the interceptor? We're going to have to find those things out.
Yeah.
And the pre-dishwasher sinks, I think there were some problems there.
Mhm.
So I guess we'll have to come up with a plan for following up in some of the areas that were raised. whether
Right.
it's small water or sewer commission or a combination.
Yeah, it's a good observation, John, because, and that leads into to our other workshops. There's
Right.
two layers thing there. Small water, we have a contract with Small Water for this activity, and there is money left on it. We had talked about several inspections, so we should, think about, is there another inspection that makes sense, just, without, getting into the other details at this point, does it make sense to go back to Asian Imperial, because it's been 3 months, and just to do another data point on that, so I think, that's part of the discussion. And the other part is the bigger one that you talk about, that I really think we need a focused workshop on is, what's the requirement? What really is our regulation supposed to look like? Do we care about an internal 3-bay sink if there's an external interceptor?
Right.
That would be an interesting discussion. I really don't know. But we need to be clear within ourselves and
Right.
what the requirement is. So, that's the other workshop I was kind of referring to that I'd like to set up and have fairly soon. And as we said at the last meeting, I'd like to, even in advance of our hearing procedure, I would like to maybe exercise a process for making the changes to the grease trap policy that sort of follows what we think, and we can
Right.
try it out even.
Right.
What we think makes sense for hearing, because I really want to give the people impacted, the restaurant owners, lots of notice and lots of ability and encouragement to come participate in that process, so that when we're done, we have a better chance of them actually, paying attention and doing it. We have a regulation that's implementable, and we have people that are bought into the process. So I'd like to have a workshop fairly quickly, and we had last time talked, and I'd like to finalize it tonight, about having a hearing at our meeting, at our next televised meeting, which would be the end of March. So between now and the end of March, having at least the bulk of that discussion and what direction we want to go, so we can open up that hearing. We can finalize the document during or after the hearing, but try to get that end of March, and then maybe the next televised one end of April, and maybe close it and make some decisions end of April and get this thing. Because the other piece of it that I think drives the timing is, one of the things that we should discuss, again, just focused on our grease trap policy, is the fees.
Yep.
And both the permit fees themselves. Is the way it's structured now correct? Are they, is it the right categories, is it the right way to do it, and are they the right numbers? And the fees when people are non-compliant. So it's pretty meaty stuff.
Yeah. I think this is great, though. This is exactly what we wanted Small Water to do.
Yeah.
So this is a lot of really good information here.
Yeah, I think they did a good job, and Small Water in general does a good job for us. I think Heather, who we're just getting introduced to, is really driving this process, and really is very, very professional, very organized. And I'm happy that she's the one who would lead this effort if we proceed with the direction we're in, to basically outsource the management of this particular part of the process. So I guess what I'd like to do is, if we could schedule that workshop next week, maybe, if possible, just to get this discussion going. Understand quickly what the scope of that we can digest is. So, preferences on times or dates, or?
Well, I have 2 birthdays next week.
I don't need them like one a year, but we need two.
Or you can bring
Bonnie's in.
leftover birthday cake, maybe.
James's.
I know your time's a little tough to schedule, Mike. Is there
Yeah,
anything that's...
we'll have to see what it falls in at here.
I don't have anything next week.
What might work best for you? Late afternoon, evening?
Late afternoon
Late
is probably
afternoon?
the better, without a doubt. I mean, I don't know.
I'd like to late afternoon.
Yeah. Sue, how early could you stand in the late afternoon?
I could get here by 4,
Oh, excellent.
yeah.
Okay. Let's pick a day and
4 o'clock
go
would
for
be-
4 and might
Except
be
on
stand.
a Thursday, because
hope you
of
can make it.
I was gonna
class.
say, Thursday's no good for me either,
No.
so
Let's see, is there anything?
Mondays are no good for me, so other than
About
that.
Tuesdays,
Tuesday?
regular
Tuesday would be-
Tuesday.
Try for Tuesday? Yeah. and
Tuesday, March
Easier to
1st.
remember because we meet on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I can't.
No,
Tuesday,
okay.
no. Good thing you said March 1st. I have a doctor's appointment at 4, so.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, is Wednesday?
I can't, I have a
You
meeting.
can't Wednesday, okay.
I do have that Thursday free, though. Are you, every Thursday you busy?
That Thursday, I'm busy, yes.
Next week.
That's the 3rd, right? March
Yeah.
3rd, right, yeah.
Monday
How about
is,
Monday, the 29th?
Monday is the end of the month.
That's, yeah,
I don't have anything Monday.
yeah, Monday's not a good one for me, but statements, end of the month.
Invented day.
Last day of
Nobody
the
has
month.
anything on the
Leap
29th
day.
of February.
It is an invented
Because it
day,
doesn't
right.
happen.
So Monday, the 29th at 4?
It's not like you're going to have trouble any day, every day.
Like,
Yeah, I'm gonna, I mean, what did I say, let's try the 29th at 4.
Okay.
I can probably come for like 45 minutes, let's say.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It's
Yeah,
statement-
that'd be great,
statement
just to
day
get
for
some
me that
input
I
would be
have-
great.
Right, yeah,
Okay,
yeah, so,
And that will be at the highway department?
yes.
DPW, right, yeah, okay.
I wouldn't be able to stay much longer than
Let's
that.
do that and then,
Roll our sleeves up, get going. All right, thank you very much.
see, we did it.
Yeah.
And we have
Make it
to
work.
fully read CMR 248 and 340 and probably another one, right?
Yeah,
Do we bring
Maybe
birthday
you should
cake,
send out
John,
the
or-
assignments, John.
No, Wednesday is my birthday.
Monday the 29th, right?
Okay, along the same subject areas, Small Water has given us a proposal for managing at least parts of the grease trap activities. And I don't know if people have had a chance now to review that.
I've read it and I think it's a good proposal. I mean, it certainly will turn this entire project over to them. And I think Barbara and Sue we talked about, that would include the restaurants sending the data right to the restaurants, I think.
What data?
The logs,
Oh.
that kind of thing.
Well, with this the new setup for the logs, the master plan, it would be there. Did you want to include Small Water with that? Having access to that?
There's two different things. That Google Drive, where you and I can work on the form, is one thing.
Yeah.
And then Google Forms or something where, and we're going to work with Steve Malandrinos, has been trying to get us started. I did send it off to Heather, just to see if it
Oh,
was
good.
something
Yeah.
that they would do, or, would manage, because it would be up to them to pull them.
Right.
But anyway, it's a start.
It is, yeah.
So I got lost. I started
Well-
out with, are they going to send the reports directly to Small Water or through us?
That was the question.
Proposal says it all, everything goes through small water. We're just, and I had forwarded this information that there's a, Steve was saying there's a Google Forms where we would provide them, or they would be aware of these forms that can be submitted directly to this website or cloud, basically, for compilation. I should CC you on that.
Yeah, I hate to be too rash, but I've been wrestling with this whole Google thing, and I have some concerns, and I think we should proceed cautiously, because it's outside what the town is going to support.
Outside the realm of,
I mean, Steve is already starting to cry uncle, and rightfully so, that it's this great thing out there that he's not going to stop anybody from using, but he's not going to put a lot of his energy into it either. He just doesn't have time to take on a whole new thing. So I'm a little concerned of having something residing outside of the town's control like that. I'm sure that there are some good uses for it, but there seems to all of a sudden be this momentum going, just taking everything over there and, you know, to a new world which isn't supported or controlled or anything else, and it worries the hell out of me. Where possible, I'd like to continue to drive to use our website for information. If we want to have a form or something and do things electronically, that's one thing, but I'm just concerned, and I advise caution on getting too dependent on this, you know, this Google thing that we don't really have an administrator for.
Right. All right, when I talked to Steve this morning, I guess it was, right? I just mentioned to him there might be a third party getting involved, and didn't know what that meant or whether the town would allow us to do that, but
I don't know that any of the restaurants need access to uploading information. I think that Barb and I could upload the information. I'm not saying out wherever. We have a master plan, and that could go ahead to Small Water for them, for the data, so they'd have it and they can take it from there. Because the issue hasn't been collecting the data, it's been what do we do with it when we get it? When we see, you know, non-compliant information.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that's why I like to, you know, separate out what's, you know, what's required to accomplish our goal,
Right.
right.
right?
I wasn't under the impression that anybody else would be involved with uploading or sending information anywhere. I don't know.
So what would the drive be used for?
The drive would be used, my understanding was between Barbara and I to have a living document that we both could work on. So we're not either duplicating each other's work or missing things because things go back and forth. Barbara sends me information.
Yeah.
So that way, if we had a master document between us, it would always be updated. It would always be, you know, accurate. And then that information we have to do whatever we need to do with, whether it's on our own with Barbara making all these phone calls, that what she does now, or if it's something that Swiss takes over,
Right.
takes it from there. So I don't know if that makes you a little more comfortable, and that seems more logical.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a convenient tool to share a document, to work on a common document,
Right,
that's different than having something for other people to access.
right, no.
You know.
Right.
And so forth, you know. So, yeah, I mean, that.
And I don't know a whole lot about it.
That doesn't worry me
I
as much as
just,
some of the other things I've heard.
right,
Because when I talked to Steve this morning, it was really just about having one document that can be accessed by two people.
Right.
Because the way they're doing it now, they're updating each other's
tough, yeah.
document, and it just doesn't make sense. And when I mentioned maybe a third party, Small Water might be taking over this, it was really doing the same thing. They were just, would they be able to have access to that document, and the sewer commission have access to that document?
Right.
Wasn't really talking about forms or anything like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it might just be a matter of a certain date of the month, Barbara sends this document to them, and this is what we have so far.
Yeah, and that's independent of this other.
Right.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a good application to share a document you're working on.
Definitely, that master list.
Right.
Yeah, no, all of a sudden, there was a flurry of things, and that's the Google Drive, and then there's Google Forms, and that was the other one that
Form was the one that's,
should,
yeah. Well, that's
Yeah,
good. to know.
That was the first I heard of Google Forms, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
threw me off too. It was like,
Yeah.
the forms are that complicated, we need a Google form.
Don't you use those on your smartphone, Colin?
If I ever get one, I probably will. I'll probably not be able to live without it. And then I'm going to give up my slide rule,
You
too.
can show me how to use it.
Okay, so back to the proposal, though.
Okay.
I too thought it was pretty well thought out. It was pretty simple, I thought, and what made a lot of sense. It didn't get into, it stopped short of once there's an issue, tracking that. And I don't know if we want to consider putting that there too, because it basically it's a monitoring process. And I like they had, so many times, visit each place, a minimum of so many times and so forth, and keep all the records and the sense I had was basically report to us when things start to go upside down.
Right.
I think it's a good start, but I think we probably need to go past that point because we're probably not such bad shape until things go upside down, but they go upside down like the next day, right? So I'm afraid that very quickly it'll just be back all here if we don't have them somehow involved in once, the nice thing to me is it would hopefully encourage us to be a little bit more process-oriented, that, if this happens, then you're notified of the non-compliance and the $50 30-day window. And then if this happens, then it's a daily thing and so forth. So we can hopefully more standardize it so it's not in any way arbitrary.
Right.
That's the process. And if we got to that point, I would like to believe we could involve them in tracking that part of it too. So that, we're not worried about how many days has it been since we've been charging $25 and, it's been a month, and now we got to notify them, we can put that all on small water and say, okay, you're also involved when things aren't so good.
Right.
Any feeling on that, or?
No, I think that's a good idea, and perhaps as part of the workshop, we're going to try to get a better understanding of how to manage that and be a little clearer
Right.
about what needs to be done. And then, yes, I think small water could take that on.
Right, okay. Yeah, so, and it can be a continuous thing.
Right.
What I would maybe suggest is what they've provided us is pretty good, and it's a great start. But the only thing missing is how much it costs.
Right.
So I think unless there's some other fine tunes we want to do, and I don't blame them. I'm glad they didn't go through the effort of costing it until they got some feedback from us. But if we're happy with it and that's a good first step, I'd like to proceed and ask them, okay, tell us, give us the bad news. What would you expect that would cost a year to go that far?
Right.
And the nice thing is that's a lot easier to estimate that than if and when we drag them into the tracking, because that's an unknown.
Right.
Right. At least they know how many times they're going to visit, they know how many people they're going to get reports from. They should be able to come up with a fairly good estimate for us. Because we may indeed, and if we get that, we may indeed want to go into the next fiscal year, with them or whoever we award the contract to just do that. And that would give us a little time to work out those details. And, if that's acceptable to the commission, we request that quote from Smallwater. Give them some positive feedback and
Definitely.
ask them for some
Yeah, we
pricing.
need a number, no doubt about it, so.
Yeah, and I think that number would be also very helpful when we have our discussions about fees, and because,
Yes.
you know, one of our goals is to have this whole activity be self-funding.
Right.
Good, excellent. Okay, we talked about regulation changes and some public hearings for the changes we're going to work on in our workshop. Okay, pump stations is next. O&M contract. Okay, so this is,
That's the thing we need to go out to bid for. That's all.
where we, can you maybe tell us where we are with that?
No,
So we need to,
I wasn't sure. I haven't made any moves on it. I was not sure I put it on the agenda. It's just as a to-do that we need to get going with it fairly quickly in order for the document to get done.
so I guess there's two things we need. One is the requirement, what we want quoted.
Right.
And then the other is, not trivial, but the RFP process, right? But that's fairly defined, isn't it? In terms of where we advertise and the
Right.
timeframes and.
Right. I would work with Carrie as the procurement, since it has to go out to bid.
Okay, so then the tough part is, again, is defining what you want. That's always the tough part. How is our documentation right now based on the contract we released almost 3 years ago? What's your sense on that, Mike? Because I know you were
Well,
instrumental in setting that up.
I mean, it's somewhat gonna mirror it, other than we have to, what we've added in, you know, for example, if we go forward with this grease trap,
Mhm.
and then the generator maintenance, obviously, so the things that we've put in, the water meters, reading of the meters, so we have to fine tune it, but I think the form that it went out in should be pretty much, you know, other than making sure we cover the rest of those areas, so
Okay.
it's a complete contract, you know, one source
Right.
for everything, so
So we've got
I don't
the
think it's gonna be that
generator.
major, really, other than making sure we just add, you know, the metering, the grease traps, and the generator maintenance
Generators, there
into
you
it, right.
Metering, grease trap, and generators.
Assuming we're gonna go grease trap, assuming we're gonna, you know, we might get a price on that and say, whoa, step back.
Yes.
So, you know, not wanting to go forward with another 3 years of it, so, but in general, that's how it, you know.
Yeah, what you, I know you and Dave worked pretty hard on that. Put in place certainly seemed to work, because we got a good contractor, and there were no surprises about what the expectations were in terms of the scope of work, so.
And I did reach out to Dave, and he's more than willing to
Oh, excellent.
revisit it.
All right,
Right,
all right.
so, yeah.
Come back in.
There are some openings, Dave McDonald.
Come on back.
Should we make a motion to beg Dave?
Yeah, okay. We can have a group beg next week. That would be great, and that would be great if Dave would help out, because you guys were a good team and got us a good spec and resulted in a good contract. And I hope it goes the same exact path, and I hope Smallwater prevails, quite frankly, because they've done us a good job. But we do need to go out to competitive bid. Okay. So is that something you could work on and drag Dave into between now and then, and what do you need from
Yeah.
the rest of us?
Well, it should be straightforward, but we'll get together and
Okay.
take it from there.
Yeah. I think we have contracts outstanding for the generators.
Yeah,
I guess
it's just
the-
incorporating everything
incorporating
into the
that
one,
in.
right, yeah.
And Heather has helped us out with defining the grease
Right.
trap thing.
Sure.
So, all right, great. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. And Dave, thank you.
Wherever you are.
Mrs. Calabash. Okay. Weekly report review. So we had pump station reports. Any input, comments, concerns?
I basically went through all of them, saw nothing stood out. Everything seemed to be running nice and smooth, so that's a good thing.
All right.
So, good job, Al.
Okay. All right, on to Wright Pierce. Our CWMP that we talked about earlier for our town meeting is clearly pretty important because we've got to get that done and ready to be presented at town meeting. I guess the activity that's ongoing now that Barb is working on and being very patient with me on is updating the development, what's going to be developed over the next 20 years or so in town. And that's a good document. It's worth putting some time into having it be current, but it'll be current for about a week. So anything else on that, Barb?
Just, I think that's what they're waiting on.
Okay.
And,
And hopefully they're not waiting.
No, and they had said that they weren't going to really start until March, so I think we're not
Okay.
holding them up. We just wanted
Super.
to get that list to them.
Yeah. Okay. And the other thing that Wright Pierce is working on for us is the manhole inspections. And tomorrow morning is a meeting at the DPW. It's basically a kickoff for Wright Pierce to meet with Jack primarily. I don't know if, will there be any police representatives?
I don't think so. I think that was a question because I think Matt had asked that same question to Jack, and I don't think Jack thought it was
Yeah.
necessary.
It usually doesn't, but it's basically just a kickoff to discuss the
This is
schedule.
for the manhole project?
It's for the I'm sorry, I left that word out. Yeah, for the manhole project. So it's basically a kickoff for that, look at scheduling, details and all that. It's basically, between Jack and, Wright Pierce, Matt. I do plan to attend. And
What
anybody's
time is the
welcome.
meeting?
9 o'clock at the DPW.
Will Jack have the roads de-iced by then?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'd like to attend.
Yeah, great. Oh, that'd be wonderful. Okay, if there's nothing else on that. On your side, Barb? No?
Nope.
On any of that? Good. The annual report, Barb did a nice job. I'm always impressed with what we all do when I read it, when Barb writes it. Never feels that good at the time, but it's pretty cool. I think,
You had one edit.
There-
You had-
yeah, there was
We're
that
going to
one.
remove the names from the project champions just to list out what the projects are.
sure.
And then John pointed out that we had voted in Sue as a clerk, and she hasn't yet. So it's at the very end. It should not have the clerk next to her name.
Oh.
We probably could deal with that at some point, but
We
it's
could-
not on the
We
agenda.
could make that correct right now.
Thank you. It's not on the agenda for election of
So
officers.
close.
So I don't think we can, but I
Okay,
can
we
put that on the
can't.
next agenda. Maybe I'll leave it in there and just put it on the next agenda.
There you go. A new accomplishment coming.
Funny.
Okay, so, good. If there any other comments or edits on the annual report?
Look good, yeah. Good job, Bob.
Nice
Yes.
put up, Barb.
Thanks.
Sum up the year. This is great.
Okay, minutes and action files.
Minutes of 2/9 that everyone received?
Has everyone had a chance to review the 2/9/16 minutes?
This probably should be clear.
Yeah, I was looking at the funding sources
Oh,
for
good.
public projects.
Yes.
And it's a little unclear. It talks about the grant loan program through rural development, but then it goes on and talks about the Board of Health, and they're two different.
Right.
So we were trying to remember what the Board of Health fund is called. What is that grant program called? Do you remember? Because that's not listed in here. I know I have it somewhere.
OHD, something like that?
I think the name they use for it is what we should use, so that people
Right.
would recognize it and start to think of it.
So I know where I have it.
You have
Let me look for it.
So, yeah, that's
We
good.
need
That
to
was the first same
clarify
thing I
that.
saw. I read it was, kind of went from grant to Board of Health, back to grant.
Right. So, let's see. 504, full application. Is that what it is, the 504?
That's that 20-page application for the federal grant.
Oh, that is the rural
Yeah.
development one, okay. Rural development, that's the wrong one. Board of Health grant info, let's see. Lunenburg Septic Repair Program, that's all it says on here.
Yeah, I
That's-
think that might be
that
what it's called.
What it's called.
It's
Well, I
septic
have
repairs.
EOCD
Repair-
was one of them. I don't know if that's,
Say the word letters again?
EOCD septic grant was the original name of it. That was what had been
Yeah.
approved.
I
don't know if
think
that's
that,
it
I think what you
anymore.
just said is the
Septic
better thing to
repair
use, septic
program?
repair.
Lunenburg Septic System Repair Program.
There you go. That sounds like a name.
Yeah.
So do you want to say how you want it to read?
Okay, let's see. It should say, the grant loan program through rural development was discussed. Sue and John worked on this together. Did we work on it? We hadn't worked on it yet.
Yeah,
Where Sue and John were going to look
we're
over
going to,
the grant.
right.
Okay.
And then there was a note that says applicants could receive up to $7,500 in grant money through this program.
Okay.
And also, the Board of Health, what's the word again? Lunenburg Septic System Repair Program grant.
System decided to stop, so hopefully they're recording nicely.
I'm sorry?
Yeah,
My
make sure you
system
speak in
has
the
just
mic.
decided to think, and so I stopped typing. Anyway, hopefully they're recording. It's all right. Sorry. Sue.
Okay. The Board of Health has decided to release this grant after changing some wording. And that's all it says. So should we include that the wording consisted of making it available for, or does, for sewer connections or sewer work? Or just leave it as is, that
I
they've
think probably
reissued
as
the
is
grant?
fine. I think,
Did you get that?
No, I'm twirling. I have no idea why I'm twirling. Can you send me what you want
I
that
will.
to say?
Okay.
I'm
will do
dead in
that.
the water at the moment.
so any other comments on the minutes?
I'm sorry.
So we're going to, Barb's trying to get us up to speed and consistent with other town boards. So we're going to implement the new policy where we review, comment, discuss the minutes, get them to where we want them, but then not take a vote on them, but instead have everyone just initial them.
Okay.
Everyone that was at the meeting, of course. If you aren't at the meeting, don't initial, but. Okay. So do we,
I don't have clean, no, I didn't. I didn't have a
Oh.
clean copy to initial.
okay,
Um,
that system didn't work already.
I wasn't thinking about, I was just thinking that they just
get
approved
the
the
bugs
minutes, so
out.
I hadn't done it initially. So
Yeah, first learning right there.
we'll get there.
Okay.
Do you want to just vote to approve the minutes?
Yeah,
with
why don't we
Sue's
just stick with the
changes?
old method for now?
Okay, all
Okay.
right.
So I would take a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Sure. I move that we accept the minutes from the 2/9 Sewer Commission meeting as amended.
Second?
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, commitment Q3 billing.
System decides. Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yep, I have a commitment for the Q3 went out on February 19th or February 11th, and for the amount of $183,958.65. So it just does need your signature, 2 separate pages.
Okay.
And there's some invoices for approval.
Thank you. Hate systems. All right, and we have City of Fitchburg's bill has come in for the amount expected, $10,227.
Yes, okay.
Needs
That wasn't even on the list.
initialing. On the new one.
Oh, the new one. Got me.
That one is a monthly amount, and followed right behind that is the Lemonster one for $54,972, which also mirrored exactly the adjustment that we expected and the estimates that we expected. Okay. Small water, I did get, we had agreed that they start this grease trap program, and for the adjusted amount of $2,500, and we have received an invoice for $2,500. You just mentioned that we thought they had more time.
Yeah, I'm very concerned about that. Can we
Okay.
take a look? Because there's no way we should have spent 2,500.
Well, Sue had, Deb at the last meeting had submitted the hour log, not at the last meeting, it was probably the 26th. She had given that to us when they came. I had had one outstanding question with it, that it had a line that said, no charge for Debbie, and yet there were 3 hours each times 3.
It's 3 hours each for that? No, so this is not acceptable.
Right.
It's not
Well,
even-
and I had already, yeah, so we've gotten it. And I had been waiting for a response from Heather and from Deb, so I can just put it aside. Heather tried to send me something right before I left today, and it was nothing that was helpful, so.
Yeah, you gotta
But I
send,
but I do want you to, I mean, they do think they have mostly fulfilled those hours.
it's just unbelievable. It's very disappointing. This is very disappointing. In their proposal, there was, and maybe we need to be more clear, there was not travel time. We did not ask we did not ask Debbie or Heather to come to any of the inspections. That was
Right.
at their own. And they're the ones with the travel time, not Al. Al lives in Leominster. On the 112 visits took, what, John? 2 hours? Not even.
That's when we saw bootleggers and yeah, because
No, no, the 112 was, no, I'm confused.
well,
But we only had 2 visits, right?
Right, 12th and I think the 1st. This was just up through that meeting on the 26th.
Okay, so the visit, the Crossroads is not here.
Right.
So you gotta go back to we don't pay Heather for writing a proposal. There's 6 hours in here for research and writing the proposal. We do not pay for proposals. Putting the book together, which was never discussed and wasn't part of the statement of work, was a nice thing, but we don't pay 2 hours for that. Putting inspection rules, they've got to stick to the statement of work. If they go outside the statement of work, then they need to talk to us and get authorization in advance. We were quite clear that the only person we were paying for inspection of the interceptors was Al.
Okay.
And to be clear also, we asked for, and maybe we didn't, or I didn't push hard enough, we asked for a separate rate for Al versus administration, and they're charging the same rate for everyone. So those are all serious problems.
Okay.
I also don't understand, so did an invoice for 2,500 come for this?
Yes.
Because at the bottom it says the remaining funds is $400.
Right. That was January 26th, and
Ah.
the invoice was received,
So the invoice would include the
12.
Crossroads probably?
right.
All right, but it's, I got,
Okay.
at a high level, I think it's off by a factor of 2. So, I mean, this is not just a little nitpicking thing. And I'm very upset with Debbie, because it was clear that we were not, well, it says no charge for Debbie, so how the hell
I know, that's the one.
do I get so many hours?
I had keyed
Here,
on
pass that
to.
down, Mike. I shouldn't be the only one excited.
Okay, so obviously,
Yeah, the scope is just review regulation requirements, define specific goals of visits, key points, messages, define establishments to be visited, communications, logistics, draft discussion point outline, and a handout. And that's about as far as it gets as far as the proposal.
So I'm sure not everything that I just said is correct, but you can sort it out with Debbie.
Yeah.
Can go back and check. those
And Weston and Sampson
files. Inspected.
had
yeah, no, because this was supposed to be like out
submitted
in between doing his
the
pump
last of
stations
the-
in the first place, so.
well, I'm not sure it's, for sure it's the last, but the connection
Yeah, that's a
fee
little, that's a
work
lot of gassing going on.
with the meeting, the discussion with Jack, and the memo that he submitted to the commission, 895, I think.
Watch them at all times.
So this, okay, this is a Weston and Sampson bill, and
Right.
this is all related to the support of the connection fee
Correct.
that we had authorized them to do. And what did we authorize? You remember how much money we authorized? It was more than this, though.
Oh, yeah. I should have had
Might
the
have been
contract
4,000 or something. It was probably
paperwork,
twice this. So this is an invoice for $2,000.
yeah. No, this one's just 895.
Oh, so the total-
Something's outstanding from the last one when they submitted it.
But for the same work, the same,
Yes,
it's
it's all on the same project.
all in the same connection fee.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're at $2,000 now.
I can tell you in just a second. Connection fee study. We approved 5,000. Before this was 3152. Get a bill from last June
Say
for
again?
2,000. The connection fee work.
Yeah?
Before this one was 3152 that had been billed.
Something got lost in the
9
translation.
hours for that day.
So this goes all the way back to June, huh? I lose
Yeah.
track of time. Holy crap.
It's been going on forever. Was that one
And this is
3147?
I went out
Yeah.
on
So with that one,
February 1st.
it was 31, so this is approximately,
That was when we
brings us
just
up to
went
about
to,
4,000 on it.
Dario's and Extapa, which hasn't been billed yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then I went out for, when we went to the Ugly, Bootleggers, Hanford.
That was 12, that was before. Oh, the first we went to.
That was, I think
okay.
that
I don't
was.
remember this last one, the
First.
11, so was this a separate bill prior, for 1,147?
Yep, we just submitted that the end of January. That was the one I went back and wanted all the kinds of backup as to what they had been doing.
And were you satisfied?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were
we
you
brought it
satisfied?
before you guys.
Said
I can
9
show it to you, I can
hours.
just resend the email if you want.
Can I see that invoice again?
Sure.
This one?
I'm sorry, I ripped it up.
9 hours.
So this brings the total to date to,
Is that 895, that total, that amount? would be $4,047.50.
4,000.
That's $895, right?
4047?
4047.5.
Okay. So this is for the connection fee analysis that we authorized 5,000 for Weston Sampson to do. With this invoice, it brings it up to what I wrote down the bottom, $4,047. I'd like to just to make it crystal clear to them that they're not authorized to do any more work, without getting a specific direction from us.
Yeah, I don't think, you and he had exchanged emails. I don't think he
That
was,
would have been for two
do any more,
people.
was
I
it?
don't, no, he
The
shouldn't be.
last-
There,
Right.
it was like,
He had submitted
thank
his
you,
note.
but I just want to be, not, I don't think he would do anything intentionally. I don't
Right.
mean to,
4.5 hours.
imply that he would do anything wrong. I just want to keep us all honest.
Yeah.
Because he might,
Which would be 6 hours
think
an
that
hour.
because we're not quite there
Yeah.
in terms of the figures.
So that's an error
But I
right
think
there.
we're as far as we need to go for now, and I'd rather not spend any more time,
Because they haven't done that.
their time and our money, until we get some
Staying below
some
budget,
direction,
right, staying below budget, and,
Right.
right, yeah.
No, that's-
Because we're kind of at the,
That's not even the right amount.
Okay.
2 people.
Yeah,
It's an error.
right, it has to be.
It should only be 6 hours.
we have a math error.
Right, and that's the one line I know. That's the one line I have asked for more information on.
But then down below, it doesn't say the hours, the time, it just says 2 hours each.
But we never agreed to the travel part of it anyways, that,
No,
it was
never.
Al was in town, and
Exactly,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think that for this one, wouldn't this have been a dedicated day? It wasn't, I think when we're talking about all the inspections, we were trying to coordinate it with when they were going to be in town.
It was never more than 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I assume that, Al works more than 2 or 3 hours a day. And the whole point was,
Yeah.
while he's in town, that we schedule it on days that he's in town doing other work.
Okay, even for that initial run
I
when we
would
did
have,
it?
that was my assumption,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
they're right here
Yeah.
checking the stations, meet us, in between, or,
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
I remember that in subsequent conversations for going forward.
because obviously it gets pretty expensive if not.
Yeah, so anyway, on this one, you guys were distracted on a very important mission of understanding that invoice. The last conversation we had with them, which is what this billing was for, was when they gave us everything they had and they could come up with for justification for the hours. The base mission was fully accomplished. You saw, the 1760, per house was a walk in the park. We wanted to go a little beyond to just do a test case to see if for development, if that would work, if we look at it from a different point of view for the development. And pretty much did just some little polishing if we needed to finish it up and, make it look better. Right now, it's a messy spreadsheet. If we ever had to, support it, we'd need to clean it up, but I think it's where it needs to be. So I just want to make it clear to them that we've got what we need for now. To not worry about, don't put any more money into making it
Yeah,
look pretty.
we got a good case where it stands, I think,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, thank you, Barb. Okay, that was invoices.
Yep, on to the projects.
Okay. Anything on Grease Trap Sue or John? I know you guys met last week. Anything of interest to share with the commission on that?
We didn't meet about grease traps, did we?
Oh, but I was there. We met with Barbara.
Oh, yeah, we were just trying to clarify how we were processing all the information to
Like we
make
talked
sure.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Between
okay.
Barb and I and John had some great input with the living document. But I do have an updated, if anybody's interested in looking at it, just where everybody's at.
Absolutely.
Had a couple of questions. Bob had asked me about license renewals, and I had just noted two, but then I had a question about a third, and that was Mickey Shays. I wasn't sure if I missed something there.
I don't think so.
You don't think
Feels like
so?
I haven't seen,
Okay.
So I'm looking for it on the sheet here where,
second
Mickey
page,
Shay's got it.
yeah.
So what's the story there? No?
Just haven't had anything since November, and that sounds, I don't remember, he usually drops it off, and I have not seen him. so.
Okay.
I just saw Hadwin in here,
Hadwin, yeah?
yep. This got updated, because remember, he did send in the
He
November
did, okay,
logs, and I think
so-
he just sent in something else, so.
And the Darios you gave me, and I neglected to put this on because I didn't have it on my computer. I had a hard copy of it. So it went out of my routine. So I wrote it in on mine. I'll update that. But as you can see, this is the pattern we have. We look really good for a month or two, and then they start to fall off again because other red is non-compliant. And even if it's a small issue, it's still non-compliant. It's a month missing logs or,
Right.
And Center Pizza needs to be looked at, because that's the one that's now not a food service establishment. It's just a convenience store. So we have to determine how to decommission.
oh, okay. Because I still have the external cleaning hasn't been done, and I didn't know if that was significant. That was the other question I had for you.
Right.
It's been over 6 months.
He was going to do it once he closed and knew that it was all done. But that was kind of just tying it all up, because after that, there should not be any more grease.
Is he due
He's
for cleaning?
due, but he's also, he closed
Yeah.
by January 1st, basically.
Okay,
Closed as a food service establishment.
yeah.
Now he's a convenience store.
But was he due when he closed or before he closed?
He
or-
was, yes.
There was
It was
discussion
over.
about it. Our RADA has been very diligent on that one. They're very good, but,
The last pumping was
Monetary.
January 2015.
yeah, there was monetary reasons, and Alan Wernick had just asked that it needed to be done, but he wanted to do it once the business portion of it was closed, so we could then basically decommission or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
have it pumped and,
Yeah, but it's inconsistent with that it's closed, so we don't worry about it. But he isn't going to pump it till he closes. So is he stopped serving food or not?
yes. as
Then he
of
should
now.
pump it.
He should
Right.
pump it, yeah.
Right, but it opens, it's a whole other
Yeah.
issue is what I'm trying to say with that, because it's not an active, and we have to have that discussion about how somebody qualifies to get off the list.
Right.
Now, what about the new location?
Zeta's,
Zetas,
Peters?
I have that listed under
Say, is it, I don't see it, that's why I was curious.
Village. I think it says.
Oh,
should
Village.
say
Is it under the
Zeta
village? Zeta Village?
Now it's Village instead of Zeta, it's Zeta instead of Village.
it was just recently received.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Well,
What
you
is
guys
it?
are good.
That's
I
what I'm
can't find
saying,
Village.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what, that's
Where's
what,
Village?
that's what I was asking, yeah.
It's
Do you
not,
see it?
It's not here,
No.
no.
I'm just saying it was recently,
Okay.
we just got.
But
the-
yeah, okay,
All right.
So he knows, he's definitely
okay, good.
aware.
So,
It's getting better, I mean,
It's not, yeah,
it's
nothing is
frustrating,
more
but
than
it is
a
getting
month
better.
or,
Yeah.
not even 2 months, most
Yeah.
of them, but they just fall off,
so he does he have a Permit?
We
Well,
approved,
he's open for
right, we
business, so-
approved.
He's open, I knew that part.
I don't think,
I enjoyed some dinner there. It was very good, actually.
How
However,
does that work?
policy. I don't know,
Yeah,
yeah.
to ask the Board of
It's the
Health.
same, it's kind of the same business.
kind of the same
It's a
business.
different
Well, Susan's
location.
asking, like transfer, it's almost a transfer, but I'm like, it's just another policy we need to
Well,
devise.
I
don't know why Village isn't here.
I'm a big fan of policies, but I think somebody opens a business, they need to get a permit. I don't think you need a policy to define that.
More than one permit.
Permit for every place he rents.
Wow, he found.
You know, I don't. And, you know, and the good news is, it's a new permit, so it's only $50 for crying out loud. I mean, he's compliant until proven otherwise. But I think it should, he should be notified that he really needs a permit. Because I think technically he would have a problem with the Board of Health if he didn't have a permit to dispose into the sewer.
Right. Do you have Zeta on the master sheet, up to date, with logs? License renewal issued in December,
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
so he's all set.
License renewal. No. License, what's that mean? We don't issue licenses, we issue permits.
The fee, well, it must be the fee.
Do you think he paid a fee?
No, I don't.
No.
What, on Zeta's?
Hmm.
You may be talking about the license, help me out.
Oh, victualers.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, when you say use
Fiddler's
license, that was the key. is that
Okay.
You wouldn't refer to our thing as a license.
That was my question that I guess I wasn't clear about when I was in last week. I asked you if I was up to date on all the fees paid, but I think I was confusing the licenses with the fees, right? The yearly fees?
The annual, yeah, because I think we said Donnelly's was I think the only one at that point that had not paid.
Okay.
So
But now we need to build
Is
Zeta's.
this now
I've
out of-
never built Zeta's, so.
is this out of date, though? Because I'm reading here under Hadwin Market, the annual fee is outstanding.
He came in, yeah.
No, that's
Did you say he
that's
came
been
in?
set.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's all set.
Okay,
I
so how do
hadn't
I,
seen that.
Sorry about that.
all right, so would that normally go away
See if
then?
you,
He should, I think he's compliant. The November logs was received, he paid.
It says August. No, that's the annual. I'm mixing those fees up.
Okay, so we do need to look into that.
We need to look at
Because
him.
I thought, I remembered Donnelly was outstanding annual fee, which is a real problem. Did we send something out to,
What is it to do? Needs to be done.
when you send it out, I think we need to remind them that the annual fee is due, and it's clearly $250.
Mhm.
Right,
And
at this point.
maybe I can help you write the letter or something, because I think if the commission agrees, I think we have to put them on notice that and we could deal with the compliance separate from the annual fee, if that makes sense,
Mhm. Okay.
right? The compliance is the $50, blah, blah, blah. The annual fee, I think we should put them on notice that annual fee isn't paid within a very reasonable amount of time, 30 days or less, that we're going to suspend the permit.
Mhm.
And we're going to notify the Board of Health that his permit to dispose into the system has been suspended. I mean, we're not talking about fees that are going to break his bank, I mean, this is, just, So, how does the commission feel about that? Because pretty soon we're going
I
to the end of
agree.
the fiscal year, and, you know, the next fee will be due.
No, I agree.
Yeah, it's important.
All right, so I'll work about that, Bob. So the $50 one you can get out, you know, that's pretty straightforward, the $50 non-compliance fee
For Donnelly's, yeah.
for Donnelly.
But
But maybe tomorrow or something, we can work on a separate letter that's regarding the permit. And I'd like to plant a seed on that, to think about, when we get to our regulations, we can go into more detail, but the one thought I had on that is that we should be real proactive and remind everybody, at least a month ahead, that the permit fee is due on such and such a date. And that if they don't have a permit fee on such and such a date, we'll notify the Board of Health that they do not have a permit. 'Cause I don't know how else to get people's attention.
Okay.
So just think about that, 'cause there isn't a lot of time between now and the 1st of July when that next permit is due. And if we give them a month's notice and we work out how we're going to do it, then we don't have lots of time. Okay. Anything else on that? SCADA system, I guess we had at least two activities there. One was to get an RFQ out. I believe for Wright Pierce, we gave them the manual, right? So they have everything they need. Maybe if one of us can remember tomorrow to just put a bug in Matt's ear that we think they have everything, and when could they give us something back?
Okay.
And then if we had another person we could go to.
I have the name of the company, and I can give them a call tomorrow.
Okay.
But maybe I can get something tomorrow when I'm over at the highway department.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I have something to talk to them about.
Yeah, I think we could, I'll know better when I see it, but I think, Barb, we can give them the same two things we gave Wright Pierce, right? Which was essentially what the system consists of, right, the parts,
Yep.
and we can give them the operating manual, which describes what functionality it needs. Okay, great. And then that'll give us hopefully 3 inputs, and we decide. The other one on this that I'm sensitive to and don't want to let die, and I want to follow up on, is to request from Small Water some information from them, or essentially, help us do a value analysis.
Right.
Okay? A little tricky on their part, because, we're asking them to explain how much money they're saving
By using it, yeah.
by using it. But I hope they also understand we're not going to get any more, and they're, if they don't help us show that it has value.
Right.
So that's my thought on that, is just go to them and say, please request a value analysis for upgrading additional systems, and, where the savings come from. How many, I think you had mentioned, how many call-outs, have they been able to avoid because of it?
Right.
Some meat, potatoes, not just it's good, it's helping us out. Okay. Anything else on SCADA? Funding sources for public projects, we touched on this before, but Sue, anything additional?
No, nothing really, just, John had found another document that Barb sent on the rural grant.
Okay.
And it gives more information
Okay.
about qualifying and what it entails. So we thought it would be good to have a link, or we could find the original
Right.
document, because what did you see on the document?
Well, we talked about how to best present this 20-page application to anyone who wants it, but whoever communicated with Sue, or Barbara maybe, sent a 2-page letter that had all kinds of good information about who to contact in the agricultural department, and how to go about the application. I think that would be better to present that information to anyone who's interested, rather than the sewer commission trying to help the application, because I think it could be outside of our expertise.
Right.
So we had that letter. I'll see if I can find an actual link, and then maybe we could put something on the sewer commission's website.
Yeah, excellent, okay. Could we, because I think you're right, we're not in the, grant
writing.
business or
Right.
grant writing or application writing. But I think you're doing exactly what we should do, and that's to find information and make it available, and also to publicize it. So I guess the question is, how, other than here, when we have this opportunity, but I don't know how many people actually watch this. I'm wondering if when we're ready, when we have something on the website or whatever, if we could maybe get something on the public access, whatever you call that
Yeah,
thing that keeps rotating.
right.
Do we know whether people actually get useful information from public access?
Well, being one of those retired kind of people we're targeting for these loans.
I think they do.
I think they do,
Okay.
yeah. I think we've
How about the senior
seen-
center?
Senior Center,
Yeah,
perfect idea.
What about
yeah.
the Lunenburg paper?
paper.
The ledger actually seems to have impact. And
Right.
one of the few data points I have is I know that the rain barrel program
Right.
is advertised there pretty regularly. They did a very nice job of helping out to get that word out, and it's been very successful. And I recommend it highly. Rain barrels at good price, but it seemed to have an impact. It really did.
The compost bins, too.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I said rain barrels, thank you.
Yeah.
Rain barrels is the next phase.
was gonna say,
I've already moved on.
I was thinking I missed something.
Yeah,
all
no,
this
I'm
time.
sorry. Thank you, thank you, Sue. I've moved on to the next initiative. But the compost bins is what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Hopefully it works. The rain barrels too. That's coming soon
Be
to
great,
a gutter near you.
Lumberg Ledger, yeah, so.
So
those
yeah,
are
I think
all good
I think the
ideas.
scroll and the ledger are two good places to reach, particularly the audience we're trying to reach.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, the only, on the business systems and process, the only thing I want to make you, mostly Barb, aware is I've requested some information, or at least a contact and perhaps a visit from the company does the billing for the Lunenburg Water District, which basically takes the same data we get and does all the billing for the water district. And I've reached out to them to try to see if they'd be interested in doing something to help out with our billing as well, since they have it's the same database, with some additions that, that we would still have to deal with manual meters and some Leominster billings and stuff that the water district doesn't get, but it's a pretty small, I don't know, it's got to be less than 10% of the customers fall into those special categories.
Yep.
All right.
Problem is also just the download to Munis, and that was the price limiting thing. I think we looked into it before with Bob was a chair, but just the cost of Munis redoing their program
Mhm.
to allow the input of a file is another cost consideration.
Okay. Website. Business manager report, website.
Just considering the septic repair, again, program, putting that on there, and then Sue's frequently asked questions, whenever, I think we're going to put it on the next agenda,
Yeah, I
right?
had asked if we could talk about that a little bit on the next agenda.
Great.
Upcoming meetings? March 8th is
What?
our next one. I'm going to be away.
And yeah, I was gonna, that's at the what the heck?
I know.
So, 3/29, oh, you're gonna miss our televised meeting, our first hearing. Darn,
Morning.
good for you. I hope you're gonna have fun.
I know.
Okay,
So, actually, we do have a workshop scheduled now for the 29th, and then our regular meeting on the 8th.
Okay.
That's all I got.
good. And our next meeting's the 8th, as you said. The commissioner comments. Commissioner comments? I have one, which is over comment and looking for some feedback. On the conservation meetings that I've been involved in recently, one of the planning board members had been coming to them pretty regularly. And it was been really, really effective because there's so much commonality, as we know here, we talk about, the same stuff, the Highfield Villages, the Prospect, so it's, we're all involved, have some involvement in these things. And that's been very, very helpful to us in our hearings and things, to have that representation there. And I've been attending the planning board meetings and, somewhat closing that loop. And in discussion with some of the members, and I brought this up at the last Conservation Commission meeting, to see if the Conservation Commission would be interested in trying to more formalize some interaction between at least those three boards, the Sewer Commission, the Conservation, and Planning, and perhaps even to invite a representative of the Water District, because same thing, we all kind of intertwine. So we took the mission, and the Conservation Commission was interested in trying to improve the communications. And what that looks like is to be determined, whether it's some representatives or some quarterly get-togethers with people available or whatever is open for discussion. But we wanted to go to each of those three groups and just see if the members would be interested in trying to, sort of, ad hoc, create some mechanism that we can, share information on a regular basis and not just wait for some event to come up. So I wanted to get some feedback on that from this commission.
I think it's probably a good idea. I do watch a lot of those meetings on television, trying to keep updated that way, but it probably would be a good idea to have a slightly more formal relationship.
Yeah.
Like as you said, it's anything that goes on in town usually touches all of these commissions.
It does, and sitting in these meetings, I see that not only is it difficult for the commissions, but it's also difficult for the developers and the customers, basically, because they kind of get bounced around. They go to one commission,
Right.
They'll ask for certain things, they go update stuff, they come back, then they go to the next one, and then it's just this, they just go round and round and round, and I think it contributes to, our perception of not being a development-friendly community. And I think maybe if we work together a little bit more, we could kind of, cut through that. And I think we get better information, because the other thing, is that, the story seems to change as you go from commission to commission too. So, I think we would all benefit, the customers and the town, if we could have some more communication. And it could be, as I say, we can take whatever direction. It doesn't have to be another forced, meeting. Doesn't even have to be a quorum. It can be people who fluctuate in or out, but just people who get together and share what's going on.
Right.
So I would say that's a positive, to at least pursue
Right.
Yeah,
trying
I
to,
think
trying
that's
to
a
do
good
something.
idea.
Okay, great, thank you. That was my last comment.
We could talk about maybe important meetings coming up with other commissions, and maybe one of us can go and just be an ear or ask a question if we have one.
Yep. Yeah, and, so we can even decide those things, so you don't have to go to every one, but we'll, be a little
Right.
bit more sensitized, and then, as I say, I think, I vary all over the place from, feeling bad for the people in front of these commissions that keep going around to feeling not so bad, because I hear them telling different commissions different things.
Right,
I hate it when I go to one commission and they say, oh, the other commission had no problem.
Ah.
And you go, wait a minute. Really? Okay. Okay, I would take a motion to adjourn before I get any deeper in trouble here.
I move that we adjourn the February 23rd Sewer Commission meeting.
Thank you, John. I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you.
Good night, Lunenburg.
Wherever you are.